I never expected a name to feel like a betrayal, but when I got the text, "It's official. I'm now Emma Caldwell," I realized just how deep the cracks ran. This was 3 years after I'd fully funded her college dreams, after every tuition bill paid, every care package mailed, every "I'm proud of you" whispered during finals week. She'd changed her name. Her last name, my name, was gone. She traded it for the name of a man who cheated on her, repeatedly, publicly, and somehow, that hurt more than almost anything else. It started when she got engaged. She called me from her apartment, voice trembling with excitement. "Dad, he proposed! At sunrise, on the beach. We cried. He said it was the easiest yes of his life." He was tall, charming, with stories that made her laugh until she forgot everything else. I was happy, for her, overflowing with it. She said, "Thank you," after I transferred enough to cover her remaining tuition and the 2 years of grad school she'd quietly decided to take. College had been her battle. A single working mother in a community college, juggling shifts at Starbucks and papers due at midnight. I sold a little bit of everything, my old guitar, weekend consulting hours. To make it happen, I didn't think twice, because she was my daughter. That was the promise. Then came the wedding, a small ceremony in California, just family, friends, and the sound of waves behind them. She wore a lace dress that looked like it was made of sunlight. He looked like a movie star standing next to her. When we kissed before I walked her down the aisle, she squeezed my hand and whispered, "You gave me the world, Dad." I let her believe that was enough. A year later, I got a message. "Dad, something's wrong. I'm confused." It was vague. She sounded distant. I brushed it off. Doubt shrank in my chest. Then came the lawyer. A contract. A name change. Suddenly, I was seeing Emma Caldwell, not her father's daughter. I confronted her on FaceTime. "Why?" Her eyes flickered. "Dad, it's just easier." "Easier for who?" She glanced away. "But I thought, I'm her husband's name now. And you paid for education you didn't finish." She grew silent. "Dad," her tone. It shifted. From that moment, everything changed. Our Sunday calls turned thin. Birthday cards were signed formally. Holiday visits scheduled. Never spontaneous. I watched her slip away into a life I paid for, but no longer had a name in. I tried to reason with her. "Name's not just letters, Emma," she said. "And you're being selfish." I didn't expect that word. Selfish. I laid awake for nights, felt my heart hollow out. All that money, all the sacrifice. Gone. Replaced by a name I didn't even know. Rendered invisible. But this wasn't just about a name. Little things she didn't say anymore. I noticed she stopped calling me Dad so often. Just hey, or sometimes nothing at all. Like addressing me as her father felt awkward or optional. She didn't talk about school anymore either. Whenever I asked how the last semester was going, she'd brush it off. Busy. Exams. Tired. Generic. Empty. But I knew her. Emma never went generic when she cared. So I did some digging. I called the university, just to verify her graduation status. There was a pause. Then the administrator said, "She withdrew from the program 4 months ago." I stared at the phone like it was a bomb. 4 months. 4. She hadn't just changed her name. She'd quit grad school. Without telling me, after I'd paid for all of it. I sat in my car, in that university parking lot, gripping the wheel until my hands went numb. Was I just some ATM now? A relic from a life she'd already erased? I tried to stay calm, tried to believe she had a reason, that maybe she was overwhelmed, maybe she was depressed, maybe she was just lost. But none of those things required hiding the truth. So that night, I called again. No FaceTime this time, just voice. I needed to hear her. Raw. She picked up on the 3rd ring. "Hey!" There it was again. "No, Dad. Can we talk?" I asked. Silence. Then, "Yeah, sure." So I asked her. About school. About the name change. About what was really going on. She didn't deny it. Didn't even flinch. She just sighed. Like this was all so tiring. "Look, I didn't mean to hurt you. I just needed a clean break." "A clean break from what?" "From everything." I swallowed. "Everything including me?" She hesitated. "That's not what I meant." "Then say what you meant." More silence. Then she said it. "He's not just my husband, Dad. He's my new family. I need to choose that." I think my heart actually stopped. "Did I ever ask you to choose between us?" "No," she whispered. "But I couldn't stay between worlds." "Between worlds?" "I'm your father. I raised you alone for 12 years. I paid for your education. I held your hand through every failure." She didn't answer. So I kept going. "And you didn't just walk away. You lied. You took my money, my trust, and you left without a word." Finally, her voice cracked. "I didn't want to hurt you." "Too late," I said. That night, I opened the storage box in the attic. Inside were years of drawings, notes, macaroni necklaces labeled "World's Best Dad." I stared at one photo, her in 5th grade, arms around my neck, covered in flour from the cookies we baked. I whispered, "Where did she go?" But the room had no answers, only memories. "Dad, call me, please." No punctuation, no emoji, just urgency. I called instantly. She answered on the first ring. Her voice was shaking. "It's him. I think he's cheating." Of course he was. I didn't say it, but I thought it. Loud. She kept talking. "He's been disappearing at night. He says it's work, but I checked his email. I found photos." I listened, quiet. She kept breaking down, and I realized she wanted comfort. She wanted the man she'd rejected to now be her safe place. My instinct was to scream, to hang up, to remind her who she left behind. But instead, I just said, "I'm here." She came home 2 days later. Her face was pale. Her hands trembled when I hugged her. She stayed in her old room, curled up like a child again. I made her tea, didn't push. But on the 3rd day, she finally said it. "I'm sorry." It cracked through the silence. She cried. I cried. We didn't talk about the money, not right away, but we talked about everything else. Her fear, her shame, her belief that she had to start a new life by burning the old one. "I thought names were just names," she said. I shook my head. "Names are roots, kiddo. You can't grow without them." She nodded. Then she asked, "Do you hate me?" I answered honestly, "No, but I hated how you made me invisible." She buried her face in my chest. We stayed like that for hours. A week after she came home, she went to the DMV. She asked for a name change form. Not because I pressured her, not because I gave her an ultimatum. She did it on her own. We sat in the parking lot afterward, silence stretching between us. "I don't deserve to change it back," she finally said. I turned toward her. "You don't owe me a name, Emma. You owe yourself the truth, that's all." She looked at me, eyes glassy, and whispered, "Then the truth is, I never stopped being your daughter. I just got lost." That was all I needed. Because truth lives in small moments like that. Not court filings, not social media posts. Moments. She moved back in temporarily, just to reset. She filed for separation from her husband the next week. Turns out, he wasn't just unfaithful, he was draining her savings too. He had access to her accounts, her passwords, her credit card. She cried when she realized what she'd given up. Not just her name, but her independence, her peace, her identity. We sat at the kitchen table one night. The same table where she'd once spilled glitter glue all over my tax receipts. Now she was 26, a woman, with bruises you couldn't see, but that I knew were there. I made us grilled cheese and tomato soup. She got a part-time job at a local nonprofit. Nothing fancy, but it made her feel useful again. She started writing, journaling, getting therapy, and she started calling me Dad again, like it was natural, like it never left, but it had. And now, it came back with weight, with meaning. One night, she asked me the question I knew would come. "Do you want the money back?" I took a long breath, then said, "No." She frowned. "But I gave you that money because I believed in your future," I said. "That hasn't changed, but if you want to repay me, live a life you're proud of, that's the return." She nodded, quietly. Then she reached into her purse and pulled out a letter. "I wrote this 6 months ago, never sent it." I unfolded it. It started with, "Dear Dad, I know I've let you down. I didn't read the rest. I didn't need to. I already knew what it said." She was sitting here. That was enough. Months passed. She grew stronger, smarter, wiser. She got her last name legally restored. She even asked if she could reclaim some of the money, help me renovate the kitchen, contribute to household bills. I told her yes, not because I needed it, but because I knew she needed to feel like she was standing on her own feet again. That mattered. That was growth. We rebuilt something I thought was gone forever. Not the old relationship. That was over. What we built now was different, deeper, more honest. Less glitter glue and bedtime stories. More hard truths and earned respect. She wasn't my little girl anymore. She was a woman, flawed, fierce, and finally, free. One evening, we sat on the back porch. The sun was setting low, pink light on the lawn. She turned to me and said, "Do you still think about that text? The one I sent when I changed my name?" I nodded. Every now and then, she looked down. "I hated myself for that." "You were finding yourself," I said. "I hurt you." "Yeah," she bit her lip. "Do you forgive me?" I didn't answer right away. I just said, "You're here, aren't you?" She nodded. "That's what matters." A name can hurt, but forgiveness heals. Not because it forgets the wound, but because it chooses love anyway. And I chose it, over bitterness, over pride, over pain. Because that's what parents do. We love through the silence. We wait through the ache. And when they come back, we don't say, "I told you so." We say, "Welcome home." She lives in her own apartment now, downtown. She still visits on Sundays. We talk about everything, sometimes the past, sometimes the future. She even started writing about her experience. She wants to help women like her, ones who gave up too much trying to chase love. She tells to herself, Friday Amini closes. If you're a parent and your child walks away, know this. They might come back. They might not. But your love, the kind that doesn't flinch, doesn't fold, doesn't run, that leaves a light on. And sometimes, that's all they need to find their way home. Friday Amini Lucian. PSS.com. / Fine Amini trees and Ingenieura. Friday Amini trees and Ingenieura. Friday Amini trees. PSS.com. / Fine Amini trees and Ingenieura. Friday 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 Amini trees and Ingenieura.